In economics, there's this idea called the law of one price, which basically states that any individual item must be sold for the same relative price regardless of where it's being sold from. This operates under the premise that price is a perfect manifestation of an item's worth, but globalization complicates this concept a little bit. The United Nations recognizes 180 different global currencies, meaning that there are 32,220 different ways that any two particular currencies can be exchanged between each other. And that's just, two currencies one way. Once you start adding more actors and more currencies into the mix, it gets really complicated really quick. So there has to be some way, objectively, of identifying how much one currency is worth compared to another. This isn't just some erudite, highly academic concept with no practical impact, by the way. No, this is something that you can feel in your gut. Literally. Thank you very much. So I hate to think of what this is going to do to my BMI, my body mass index, but there is a particular kind of BMI that I am interested in here because it directly pertains to the law of one price, the Big Mac index. Alright, confession time. I've never actually eaten a Big Mac. This will be my first time. I mean, despite having lived 22 years, all of my life here in America, this is the first time I've had the quintessential fast food American meal, so... Alright, here we go. Let's see how it is. It's not bad. Not like awful or anything like that, but yeah. I mean, it has to be somewhat good, right? I'm still eating it. The Big Mac Index was invented in 1986, but The Economist magazine has popularized the concept as a legitimate means of obtaining the PPP, or purchasing power parity, of global currencies. Effectively, PPP allows us to compare how two different currencies match up by using items that are routinely traded in those countries. First, it has to be pretty widespread. I mean, it can't just be a product used by one currency, or else what would there be to compare it to? Secondly, it has to be pretty well used in all the areas that it's being compared in. I mean, it'd be odd to use Xboxes as a comparison between the US dollar and the Congolese franc, since video gaming isn't as pervasive in the DRC. It's pretty easy to see why the Big Mac was proposed. I mean, for better or worse, this is effectively ubiquitous. I mean, billions of units have been sold around the world. And, thanks to a series of really successful advertising campaigns, we all know what comprises this sandwich. I'm sorry to do this to you because I know it's going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the day, but here's a little blast from the past.
2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, on a sesame seed bun.
The thing is that this ingredient list is standardized. One of the hallmarks of fast food, which McDonald's helped pioneer, was that your burger would taste the same if it was purchased in Texas, Florida, California, New York, or wherever, because it was effectively the same burger. And McDonald's took this ethos with them when they started expanding internationally in 1967. Now the Big Mac you pick up in the UK is the same as the one in Japan, as the one in Russia, as the one in South Africa, and as the one in Texas, Florida, California, and New York. And since they are the same item, the law of one price states that they should all cost the same relative to the currencies that the prices are expressed in. So because it costs 89 rubles to buy the same thing as it costs 370 yen as it does $4.79, it stands to reason that 89 rubles is equivalent to 370 yen, and that both are equivalent to $4.79. So does that mean that we should start using the Big Mac as some sort of global currency? Well, no, and after having one, I can't tell you how relieved I am of that fact. I mean, like I said, it's good, it's not awful. I mean, I can see why people would like it, but it's definitely not Five Guys good. Shots fired.
Shots fired.
There are actually a few problems with using the Big Mac as a measure of PPP. I mean, first off, it's not exactly standardized around the world. For one, there will always be minor kinks preventing identical products to be made in the same restaurant. No two Big Macs are ever truly the same. But it's actually been shown that there are appreciable differences in Big Macs across different countries, which I'm kind of surprised hasn't led to more of an uproar, considering that just a few years ago, a Subway sandwich that wasn't exactly 12 inches long damn near managed to break the internet. I mean, that's Subway. This is McDonald's, man. This is the juggernaut, so I don't know. I'm just kind of surprised that that's the hill we decided to plant our flag in. But even if the Big Mac was the same across all locations, the supply chain and the demand on the ground certainly isn't. It's not like there's some central global plant taking in raw ingredients and chucking out quarter pounders. Each region where McDonald's operates has its own sources of beef, buns, and vegetables that get shipped out to individual restaurants. For instance, the vast majority of beef for the US comes from, you guessed it, the United States, but half a world away, France gets 48% of its beef from outside the country. These local supply and demand forces are pivotal in dictating the price of the Big Mac's constituent items and therefore the Big Mac itself. But even then, there's also cultural differences. I mean, some places may not have an affinity for beef, for instance, or may not be so inclined to the sort of fast food lifestyle that's so prevalent here in the United States. So although Ronald and the rest of the board may certainly wish that the Big Mac was ubiquitous and that it had a set price across all locales, basic economics say that it's simply not meant to be. While the Big Mac may not be perfect, it's still a pretty decent rule of thumb. But there's another commodity on the rise that may be an even better indicator: iPads. Considering that they have literal factory specs that they have to meet before being sold to anybody and that they all tend to come from the same relatively few locations, its price is far less muddled by the same factors that impede the Big Mac. But it's kind of hard to argue that the law of one price is perfectly applied when a 16-gig iPad 2 is $399 on the Apple website and $384 on Amazon Prime, so it too is not perfect. Plus, it's a bit less fungible on one important measure. Again, it's really not bad. Actually, it kind of grows on you, to be honest with you. What do you guys think? Is the Big Mac really a decent way of determining how much power one country's currency has compared to another? And is it even possible to get a decent measure of PPP, considering that all of the world's currencies, or most of the world's currencies, are fiat? And what about the iPad index? Are we on the cusp of seeing that replace the Big Mac index? And what does that say about us and the direction that our society is going in? Let me know in the comments, and I'll reply to some of the newer ones in office hours. Links for everything that we've talked about will be down in the doobly-doo. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you'll consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.